everybody. Welcome to the Library Commission meeting. Today is April 3rd, 2025. And this meeting will be held in person and will be streamed at https://www.youtube.com/user/the City of Pleasanton. It is requested that members of the public wishing to address the commission submit a speaker card. When public comment is opened on an agenda item, individuals may speak once per agenda item. Okay, so Commissioner Stroud, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now can we do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Chen? Dillon?
Present.
Emerson?
Present.
Kimsey? Murphy?
Present.
Stroud?
Present.
Chair Sabatini?
Present.
Thank you.
Are there any agenda amendments tonight?
There are none from staff. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully everybody reviewed the minutes from February 6th. Are there any corrections, changes? Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. The motion passes by the following vote. Commissioner Chen? Aye. Dillon?
Aye.
Emerson?
Aye.
Murphy?
Aye.
Stroud?
Aye.
And Chair Sabatini?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any introductions, awards, recognitions today?
I don't have any introductions, but I do have a farewell to an amazing youth member of our commission, our Commissioner Dillon. She has served our commission with such, not just diligence, but energy, innovation. I just want to thank you for what you've done. And on every subcommittee, everything that you are involved with, you bring just the insight, the intelligence, the passion for library services. And we are really going to miss you. So I just want to thank Commissioner Dillon for what she's done for our city and to wish you the very best. We hope we keep seeing you in the city in some fashion. Do you have anything to share?
I wanted to say thank you to all of you, everyone here, and then also all the commissioners that have moved on. It's honestly been a great experience. I've learned so much from you, and I think I've earned some mentors for a lifetime. And it's been really great. I've not only learned about civic processes, but I've learned just the importance of the library in the community. Before it would be like I go to the library to get a book. I go to the library to study. But now the library is more than that. It's like a network. It's a community. And I see that the commission does so much work just to preserve that. And all of your work is valued. And thank you so much for teaching me so much along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any speaker cards tonight?
We have no speakers in the audience.
Let's move on to item 4, review and discuss the Pleasanton Teen Laureate, Pleasanton Teen Poet Laureate Program.
Thank you, Chair. This item before you is regarding the Teen Poet Laureate Program. This is really the result of months worth of work of our Teen Poet Laureate Ad Hoc Committee. And I do want to thank again Commissioner Dillon as well as Commissioner Yee in the Civic Arts Commission, along with our city staff, our city staff from the library and from Civic Arts, Renee Freitas and Jillian Morales, work closely with commissioners to really look at the program holistically. This came forward as the result of a one-year pause to really explore the program. It's been in place since 2012. It actually grew out of the Adult Poet Laureate program in the city, and it was, originally a concept to identify a youth poet laureate from both, or for two of the three high schools, Foothill and Amador. But over time, it was harder to recruit two teen poet laureate, so it went down to one. And we've had Amador represented as our most recent teen poet laureate. The program has also, it's a wonderful program, but it hasn't had the opportunities or the levity that we've heard that it really could have for our teens. Civic engagement in terms of speaking and reading poetry at civic events has declined over time just because of lack of opportunities. I think there's been just an interest in helping to elevate each of the laureates a little bit more, possibly. I know it was explored a national program as well. So tonight, I just want to open up the discussion with commissioners. Obviously, you saw in the report, the program cannot be brought back until the city budget is adopted and program decisions are made. But we really want to be poised for when that happens, if the Teen Poet Laureate program does return, because that committee has done an amazing job of developing new goals, identifying the need for a national program, looking at really having a clear mission and vision. Staff has also provided an analysis and input that the program would really benefit from a little bit more of sort of some standards around like how many programs would be provided, really a way to kind of measure the success. I think anecdotally we feel it's been successful because of each teen that's involved, but really there hasn't been a way to sort of look at it from the outside. So tonight I'd actually, if you're comfortable speaking about it, Commissioner Dillon, just sharing, you've read the report. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, recommend, suggest? And, we just want to take that information forward because I don't want that work to just fall in a vacuum. I think there's things we could do with, the national organization that would definitely elevate the program as well. So let's hear from you too.
Yeah, so all the details are out in the report. You can read about, everything that it's asking for, rebranding the Teen Poet Laureate program to the national program, the Youth Poet Laureate program. But more than that, it's like creating a space for it in the actual, in the city, because the Teen Poet Laureate program was there, but I felt like sometimes they didn't receive the attention or sometimes they didn't have the opportunities. And so us recommending this would, be a precursor to its actual adoption, because as we know, it's not, we don't have the funding for it. We don't know where that's going to lie in the budget, but having this ready to go just in case we do get the approval to have this program, I think it's really essential because it connects students with literary excellence, and that's something that you see in English classes, but not beyond that. I think this is something that takes that beyond just reading or writing.
In reading the report, I was curious about, I thought it made sense to do a national, connecting with the national group. Where would that fall? Whose responsibility would that be? Would that fall inside the library right now, or?
So yes, that's a great question. The Teen Poet Laureate program has always been a joint commission effort, which I think has actually provided a lot of benefit to the program. And we've had different commissioners over the years, usually one representative. Sometimes we've had, I believe at one point we may have had two representatives from the commission, but we can't have a quorum. Otherwise it becomes like a public meeting and it has, just a different focus. So I think it would be, it would continue to be in library and civic arts ideally. But I guess if you're thinking about where it would be funded in terms of staffing, that's something that we need to consider after the budget process. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, so it would fall inside staff. It would not be something that the Teen Poet Laureate would be in any way responsible for making that connection or anything like that.
I think the program,
yeah.
the program gets established as the national program, and then whoever the youth member is that takes upon that role is already going to be in a role that's established. So the Teen Poet, I think what you're trying to ask is if the Youth Poet Laureate is responsible for having that, to create that program. But no, that's going to already be there for them to use. So sorry about that. It's going to be for them to have the resources and the connections already with I think there's a county Youth Poet Laureate, then there's also various other city youth poet laureates around Pleasanton, so that's already going to be there for them.
Okay, so they would walk into that and it would already be established.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, maybe the first one will have a little bit of a learning curve, but after that, I would assume that each youth poet laureate would ideally teach the next one, and then they teach the next one on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it would be great if we could do that. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to make some of those connections in advance. I know from a budget standpoint, everything's sort of, in a deep freeze. So, but I think it would be great to establish it for the future because, as you said, it would be nice to be able to just turn it on.
Yes, and I think there is such a great preliminary plan here already. The goals, to me, are very clear and they make a lot of sense. There's going to be, particularly in the national program. So I appreciate you sharing that, Commissioner Dillon. I think we have looked at programs where things transition from one teen poet to the next. And I think that's something we could probably explore and do a little better because a lot of times it will be just a matter of timing of, one student is maybe graduating and then how do they sort of, pass that knowledge, information, and training on to the next student in a summer gap period. So that's a great point. I'm going to make note of that.
So is it currently, what is the status of it right now, and what will be the status for the next few months?
So currently it is, it's paused. It's not in recruitment. If the program were to begin again, it would be, a fall recruitment. And then, likely, however, we're very hesitant to commit. We can't commit to anything right now.
I'm just wondering if there are any grants available that could help the program.
Yes, I think, one thing that is it's interesting, the youth, the national program Urban Word and the Youth Poet Laureate program at $500, that's very reasonable. And, because it's an established program, it's $500. I think that would be something that would not be hard to fund. I think it is, the staffing commitment and resources that, because in high season, it can be upwards of, 10 hours or so a week of staff time and, just helping to identify what that looks like because, behind the scenes, there's just a lot of city work, every marketing piece that goes to the city, that's the work of city staff. And, just helping to identify what are the priorities for programming going forward with the resources that we will have.
Okay, thank you.
So what can we do? Because it sounds like it's really amazing, and we want to be able to support it. So what can we do?
I think right now you can provide input, feedback, looking at those goals, having something in place to roll out will be very helpful. So if this is something that, there's no vote on this item, it's to receive information and provide, input, to discuss. So if you have, what can you do now? There's really nothing to do now other than just, provide input, ask more questions while, Commissioner Dillon is still here. Commissioner Dillon and the team that worked together looked at other cities. It was interesting to find that of the 4 cities, only 2 have teen poet laureate programs. Actually, with ours offline, it was only 1. So, maybe just an understanding of the ones that do have it, how have they been able to sustain? It sounds like it's absorbed into regular staff work. They have not been able to identify, specified resources for that. But, what's involved in the national chapter, and then looking at all the goals that were kind of laid out and the recommendations of staff if the program were to move forward. Is there anything else? How could it be made better? I like the idea of the student outreach. That was a really good concept of, really truly getting the word out through student venues versus just, city staff. I thought that was good. But anything else, if it were to roll out, how to make it a success, I think is what we're looking to hear.
Are there any partnerships with school staff for this?
When the program is in place, we have looked at that. I think there was a point we tried to identify school district staff to be on the, to be a part of the committee to review, to interview applicants and future poet laureates. I think that's been a little bit challenging. I think Commissioner Dillon, remind me again, Commissioner Yee has been on the Pleasanton Unified School District School Board. She has a lot of insight into, she mentioned that teachers would really need stipends to get involved. Tell me more about that.
It was definitely part of the discussion, but I do not believe it ended up coming out in the end report.
The notes that we had were just around recommending teacher stipends, but I don't think there was, did you gather why? Is it because teachers
I
don't?
stand corrected. There is one section about this, funding for teacher stipends to increase school participation. So we were looking at like being able to advertise in the schools, using the schools as an avenue for this program. I remember that conversation. And then we identified that this having teacher stipends and having teachers involved would be a really beneficial resource. So that is in the report. Sorry, I didn't remember that.
Was the reasoning because for teachers to be involved, they just would need additional funding because they couldn't fit into their regular work? Okay. So I think that's probably the answer to that, of getting school involvement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So at this stage, there is no mission statement, vision statement, anything like that in place.
No, I think that, I'll just refer again to the ad hoc committee thoughts on how that would be developed. Would it be when the subcommittee reconvenes if the program were brought back?
So we had thought that we'd create some kind of basis. I think it would be when if the subcommittee were to come back, but we had originally thought we were going to take, there was, I forget what the name of this, it was a plan, I think might have been for arts, I'm not sure, but they had some sort of description of the Teen Poet Laureate program already in place, so they wanted that to be kind of the backbone, but then also develop it. And what I wanted was, like, my perspective was the youth should be able to have a say in that. So, like, whoever the Youth Poet Laureate is, like, they are able to take the program in whatever way they wanted to, and then shape the mission and vision statement on that. So it hasn't been, I don't think it's been developed yet, but it's definitely was in the talks, and it's a future item.
So I'm hearing it. The mission and vision for the program would change each year, dependent on the poet laureate. Is that correct?
I don't know the exact
Okay.
answer to that. Maybe evolve is a better word. Like, I think at some point it should be some sort of, stable mission, vision statement. But as of now, I don't.
Oh, that's fine. I would imagine this would come back to commission.
Yeah.
And, I do think there was a lot of value for our commission to be involved in our development for the Library and Recreation Strategic Plan to provide some input on the mission, vision, and values. I would imagine it could be very similar. I think the question is the youth involvement. So perhaps with our future youth member, there could be some opportunities there to help develop that.
And in terms of metrics for evaluation, this seems like a really hard thing to measure.
Yes, and staff that discussed this, we talked a lot about. It really depends on the poet laureate of that season. So each poet laureate has, and you want this creativity. Each laureate has given their own, really they've provided a vision without it being stated as such. And so some poet laureates have provided more readings at events. And I think we mentioned this in the report. A lot of it is availability. So if there aren't as many events that year, obviously an era like COVID was very difficult, although our poet laureates are creative and innovative and found ways to do it online, which was really neat. They were filming things, they were broadcasting. At times they'll do workshops. So we do want it to be adaptable, but I think we actually haven't measured the output of the program. So I think that's something we would begin to do, and we would work closely with the poet laureate at the beginning of the program to craft that of what are their goals. I do think there could be some sort of reasonable goals around how many events. Maybe it is one signature event or two signature events. I wouldn't want to say, definitively, but it could be, hosting one workshop, but we want each laureate to be able to make it their own too, because that's part of the creative process. So I don't know if you have any comments on that, Commissioner Dillon. Metrics are hard, but they are part of how we tell the story too.
Yeah, when I began as Teen Poet Laureate, they had this outline it's like when I was applying, actually. They were like, the Teen Poet Laureate does this event the poetry slam, I believe. I did not do the poetry slam. But I think that having that metric of like setting it out with the poet laureate and then checking back in, maybe in the middle and then at the end, how many events are we going to do? How many have you done so far? How many do you want to do in the next session? And then how many have you done at the end? So like it's like that check-in, but that metric is it's helpful because when we're creating these types of reports, like now we didn't have that much definitive like statistics or any quantifiable measures for us to understand what poet laureates in the past have done or what we can, build off of that. So it was a lot of just my own experience. And I think that will allow for, better planning in the future as well.
Thank you for that. I also think a thought was that the metrics do really help the poet laureate.
Yeah, definitely. It allows them to kind of see into what they're going to do.
Any more questions, comments?
I do think with the metrics, it would also be cool, if possible, there's like quantitative data, but there's also qualitative data. There's the stories and there's like the inspiration that people get of poetry and like that. And so if there's a way to also build that in, that could be really beautiful and meaningful too, rather than just, I did this event, this event, this event.
I guess I'm adding on to the report right now, but it's a suggestion. I think I just thought of it when you said that. Maybe at the end, maybe in the middle and the end of the poet laureate's term, they have something that goes out in the library newsletter. That's what is the poet laureate up to, and then you have like pictures of what the poet laureate's doing if they had done an event so far, maybe a poem of theirs, and maybe numbers of like these are the many people that they've reached at this event, or this is a quote from someone who, like those surveys that are done at the end of library events. You can have someone's, quote at the end, like, oh, I really enjoyed this, blah, blah, blah. It's just like a graphic that can be created that shows photos and stories, kind of blending the quantitative and qualitative into one.
I think it's an opportunity for the newsletter. It's another one of those
Yeah.
kind of top line of the newsletter, because that's the kind of thing people do like to see it. They do like to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Qualitative data is so important. We talk about that a lot with our other programs. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much, especially Commissioner Dillon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Dillon.
So moving on to item number 5, review and recommend City Council adopt a resolution approving the library privacy policy.
Thank you. One moment. I'm going to pull up the policy on the screen. Almost pull up the policy on the screen. Great.
There it is.
Well, thank you very much to our Library Commission for your outstanding work on the library privacy policy. We're really excited to bring a second draft to you tonight. This draft ideally represents the great input that staff received at the last meeting in December, primarily around reorganizing the document to streamline content, improving the organization, removing a lot of duplication within the policy, adding that table of contents. Thank you very much. That really made it kind of pop, and then having page numbers to navigate. One feature that you didn't see in your preview is staff figured out how to make sort of a jump menu from the table of contents. So when you click on the section, it will jump to the area of the document. So thank you to our very savvy admin team on that. We weren't able to preview that, but we will get that once approved and loaded on the library website down the line. That'll be a feature. Also, providing that flexibility for the vendor listings. So we will open up our new website page on this tonight that shows you how the vendor listings are now on the website with the links, and then just with a short description for each one of the privacy considerations around them. We also provided more clarification in this document on state library privacy laws with those titles to the citations. That was one of the comments I think Commissioner Kimsey made, that it wasn't clear what they were. And then with the goal goal to align privacy policies with evolving technologies. I appreciate the mention, I think it was of Commissioner Stroud, around AI. While we don't have a citywide AI policy as of yet, I think it's important to have a sort of a placeholder there for it and understand that the library is, tracking that and considering that down the line. So we can go through the entire document tonight. I think we've been through the document quite a bit, but I'm happy to scroll to a place if we wanted to discuss by sections, or if we just want to open it up for comments too. Oh, and the action for this is an item for voting this evening. If the changes are not significant and you do not want to see another draft, you can provide a vote for City Council to approve a resolution to adopt the library policy. If there are substantive changes, discussed this evening, we can bring back another draft of the policy. There's no immediate rush on this, so please take your time, consider carefully for what you think is needed for our community. So thank you.
It probably makes sense to kind of just sort of step through the sections, not the detail necessarily,
Absolutely.
but the sections, just.
So we're going to go from table of contents. We'll start with, there is an introduction area, and I think that spans about 3 pages. So first section, library privacy principles.
Do I need to call on people, or can we just?
I think you can go around the room. I wonder, do you want to discuss any kind of overarching things that were there any like concerns or comments that were just overall, or do you want to go through by section?
Overall, I think I agree. It looks so much more user friendly, and it's so
Thank
much
you for
yeah,
the recommendations.
So that was my biggest takeaway. I think most of the content either remained the same, it just moved around. But my biggest thing was, I actually know where to go and where to look in here.
Any other general comments about it?
Well, I wasn't at the meeting in December, but in looking through it, it's like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah, that sounds okay. I just felt very positive, as I read through it. And probably the only question I had was, I use the library's app, and sometimes I like to recommend a book to be purchased. I was like, do you guys track that? Or keep some sort of
Oh, that's
list of
interesting. Yes.
recommendations?
Yes. So you submit through the library app.
Yes.
And then are you generally notified when the item is
Well,
received?
when I go in, it says your suggestion has been approved, but I don't think I get an email message about it or text message.
Okay, yeah, I can
I'm just
definitely,
curious to know
I
if you
can look
track
into
that.
that. Yeah, it's a function of our online catalog. So I believe it would follow the same retention rules, privacy considerations as it's part of BiblioCommons. But one thing we did was we did take out the names of the vendors throughout to incorporate them on the website, because the idea is the vendors can and will change over time, as any technology vendors do. But we can look at that, certainly.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's probably a good point in the sense I also use the app a lot. I know that not everybody does, but I also use the app a lot. And my assumption was, and maybe it should be explicit, my assumption was that the data is treated the same. And maybe that should be explicitly stated in some way, that regardless of how you reach out to the library, that your data is being protected either way.
Yes, we can definitely look at the library app. It sounds like we have 2 strong app users. So
So where would you add that?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look, because it is.
Well, the assumption that you make when you read this is that it is covered, but maybe that assumption isn't correct. I mean, you are accessing the library possibly from your phone as compared to a computer, so there may be a difference in encryption and so on.
Yes. So the app is part of the library catalog, but when I'm looking here, it's under third-party library services on page 21, and it indicates that the vendors may collect and use data about library members' interactions with the services, including information provided by library members when creating an account, share data such as name and email address, browser, operating system and device details, web page addresses visited, along with timestamps, library members' IP address and location, social media account. So I don't know that it fits quite there. Yeah, I'd have to.
Because you're right. It's more it's more part of BiblioCommons. It's more as if you went in through, the regular
Absolutely.
website, but it is actually different. I mean, and when you are accessing something from your phone, it's a little bit different. So, yeah, I don't know where it belongs though.
Yeah, it does belong under third party. And I think, perhaps we can call it out individually under the library app. I'm not sure it's on the web. When we look at the vendor page, let's look and see if the app is specified, because I think that we have so many app users that would be important for them to know. So anything else under this section, library privacy principles, if we've had a chance to look?
No comments? Okay, next section.
So the next section is libraries and California state law. So one question that we did have at the commission meeting, which I thought was a really good one, was, is there any distinction for privacy protections in adult records versus minor records? And in consulting with our city attorney's office, there was no distinction identified in the code that governs this. So we did call that out. It's probably good for parents to know that. One caveat is the city attorney did add this statement: the city attorney will review requests to ensure compliance with state and federal privacy protections. So if there were a request, that request would be consulted with our city attorney. So that is another layer of protection as well. So the next section, is there anything on public record requests? Sorry, I skipped past that there. So next is library services and personal data. And this is the data collected from library users. So we try to be as comprehensive as possible with this list. We had a question about the Student Success Library Program at the last meeting from one of our commissioners. And that was really interesting. We did pull the Memorandum of Understanding with Pleasanton Unified. It does indicate this information here, that, to the extent that library staff have access to that personally identifiable information from records for students, it will not use such information for any purpose, including targeted advertising, except for the legitimate educational purposes of providing services pursuant to this MOU. It will not disclose the information except as required by law. So that, I think that's something that if there were an issue that arose, particularly around those student success cards are cards that are, it's basically utilized as a student ID to access the library. So their library card, or as we like to say, their lunch number, it can be used to pull up their library account and check out materials. We have not had a request for access to those accounts or information that has, been, a privacy question. If we did, we would probably also speak with the school if it was a school matter. So. But, in essence, if it's a library account, it is then, in the library's purview. So it is, it's kind of a tricky one because we haven't walked through that question yet. So hopefully this gives a little bit of clarity. And then
It's good to have it in there so that
it is.
as it develops, you might want to modify that, but
Absolutely.
have it in there.
Yes, it's a long-standing program, and it's interesting because when we do school outreach, a lot of parents don't realize that that is a feature. They don't realize they already have a library account for their student, because while it's featured in all the information that you sign at the beginning of the school year online, there's pages and pages of things, and like many busy parents, we often click through them. So parents are usually delighted to know this, and it's just really nice. The student success card accounts do not. They also don't go to collections, so if an item were lost, it doesn't follow the same kind of pattern. So that is a nice feature. It's something that doesn't come up much, but it's good to know. So for library member services, that's that's the area where we talk about issuing library cards, managing library accounts. So in this area for account access and notification, we really wanted to kind of designate, the security around an account. We would not at the library member services desk, go into a library account without being able to verify that member. There are ways, it's interesting, there are ways to designate another user to access your account. However, we do require both people to be in person to do that, just because, it's something, we want to safeguard privacy, but there's also considerations, around materials being checked out and we don't want those titles shared. So just, a lot of considerations. I think our library staff just are very much front runners in protecting privacy. Anytime we're looking at new products or services or considering adjusting a service, the word privacy always comes up. So I'm really proud to work with that team and just understand how they protect our community's privacy. So with these bullet points, I don't know if there were any specific questions around this area. It's one of the things that we get. We do get questions around, probably the biggest question we get is access to youth member accounts. I think that's in this section, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little later.
Yeah.
Account permissions below.
Is it further down? Oh, here we go. Yes. Yeah, we called this section out specifically because the question does come up about members that are younger than 14. So when a member turns 14, the youth member becomes the account owner. And then we did discuss collection agency accounts. One question that, I don't know that comes up for the community as much as staff. It's just, what kind of information is transferred over to a collection agency? The library does its best. We try and get materials back. We don't want to send anyone to collections, but after, I think it's, the period has gone up to almost 150-day period. And we work with an agency, Unique, that works specifically with libraries. They use what's called the gentle nudge method. They're very kind. They'll call and do reminders. I think they're very, very successful. They have a high turnaround. I can't remember the ratio, but they get a lot of materials returned through their methods. But if in the unfortunate event an account does have to go to collections, the library sends only the basic minimal personal data required. And because we no longer collect California driver's license numbers, which we're very glad of that, that does not get sent over. So it's very minimal information. I thought that was good for us to call out. Any questions on this section? I think the other area is library member accounts and the retention periods. No. So next is programming, another fun topic. So library program participation data. We don't collect as much in this area obviously as we would for a library card. Many of our programs are drop-in. So that, it doesn't really necessitate collecting personal information for reservations. We did do a little bit of exploring. So because our library on the city retention schedule is like a 2-year retention schedule, then we actually, as a result of this process, we're able to align our records in the same fashion. So there really isn't a programmatic reason to keep data on program registration longer than 2 years. So. except for the Pleasanton Reads literacy program. They do have a business reason due to the grant process to retain records longer. They retain what they need to for particularly financial records are very helpful. They do collect that data that you see there. That is required by the state for the program. And it really does help to make the program more effective, because if you know certain factors that could be, a way that the library could assist. For instance, if you understood primary languages, written goals, then you can make that program stronger for the learners.
Are they notified when they sign up for the program? It's not just in the privacy policy, but when they sign up for the program, they're aware that this information is
That they sign something.
Yeah.
I could check on that. That's a great question. I have not worked in a literacy program up close for many years. I do believe there was some sort of form to join the program, but if, I think that would be important to indicate here. What I don't know is if there isn't a form required, perhaps it's a state form. I'll look into that. Yeah.
It's just, it's good that it's in the privacy policy, but that's kind of like the small print that they make us scroll through on all those websites that says, if you open this, you're agreeing to all of this. So there's some sense that they should be notified when they sign up to do this, that this information will be kept for a limited amount of time
We don't do that with other information. I guess I'm trying to figure out, we've asked about signing and waivers in some cases. I think the primary waivers or the things that we have our patrons sign, they do sign library cards, through the online process, but that is more about because they are, checking out city property in essence, and they would be liable if they were not returned. So it has sort of a financial obligation. And I'm just sort of thinking through this. We have the same for the Chromebooks about damage and about, sort of liability also, because there is definitely data, concerns when you are out on the web. So I don't know if we would have, them sign anything. They may sign something to participate in the program, though, however. So I can look into that and provide an answer.
It just seems like when they sign up for it might be nice if it's said, that this information is collected for data purposes. I mean, I think people understand that, but.
I'll look into that. Thank you. So this is the section where we allude to the records retention schedule. And that state grant retention schedule is longer, and it's after the final expenditure report is submitted for the funding cycle, and that is required by the state. And then this next section is the area where it is more difficult because these are third-party services, but I think the goal of any privacy policy is really, while the library is dedicated to protecting privacy, there are limits because of what the company's policies are. So this was where we did expand our vendor privacy policy webpage, which let me go ahead and open that up if I can. And we would love your feedback, not just on the policy here, but on the website. If I can get the cursor to cooperate.
It might be there that you put the reference to the app, because you have at the end of that in the second line, the library's online catalog. You may want to say which includes, the affiliated app or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you've said multiple times that it's connected to the online catalog. But that's not necessarily.
Oh, so just add it onto the part with the library's online catalog. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and it says the library's online catalog, which includes the
that's great.
Affiliated app. Because you've said that a couple of times, but I don't know if regular app users know that it's a part of the catalog.
I don't know that they would either. Yeah. What page is that? Let's see. Page 9. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try and go out to the other site. Let me try it from here. There's 4 different screens, so. It's the one next to Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna look this way and use the mouse. So this page went through sort of a redesign. It used to have all the vendors listed individually, but it didn't say what the vendors were and what they did. So thanks again to our fabulous admin team, figured out how to make drop downs to open up for each of the categories. So at the top is library accounts and online catalog, and within there is BiblioCore, which is the online catalog or web catalog. Perhaps we could say online catalog would be more clear. And it doesn't look like it refers to the app, so that would be a good place to add that information in. Next is the ILS, the Integrated Library System. So this is Polaris, which is sort of the staff side of the online catalog, the back end piece. And then Library Elf, which some users don't know about, but that's a way to combine all your different library accounts. Like, let's say your kids have cards or your family members, you can put them all together to get alerts for everything, which is really helpful. And then we have a category for the ebooks and streaming content. So this is pretty much all of our digital products here. And we did write like short descriptions for each one. When there are privacy considerations, like for example, Amazon is an interesting one because it integrates, or probably not integrates, but it's the connection point for Kindles. So anytime you check out a book on Libby and you're going to use it through your Kindle, Amazon is like the intermediary. So we thought it was important to pull that out. That there's once you're in that avenue, then you're traversing their privacy policies. But it is such a crucial resource, and I think that's something libraries have often struggled with is, because you can't control their privacy policies, but you're providing a valuable service, you have to kind of make that choice. And back when Kindle was introduced, this was a big topic in the library field. Next is Ancestry. That's our genealogy database. So that one is very interesting. That one doesn't, we didn't call out resources where it's storing the patron information, like let's say like they were building their family tree on it and saving it within that product. So if that were the case, we kind of spent a little bit more time explaining that like we did with Amazon. Biblioteca is the library's self-checkout stations. We have Bluebird Languages, used a lot by our literacy team, but available to all patrons. BrainFuse is another one that's called the Help Now resource, and it's for online tutoring, free tutoring. We've got Discover and Go, and that's for free museum passes. And then some of the newspaper resources and the periodical or magazine resources as well are listed here. Some free resources we get through the state, like Encyclopedia Britannica. We've got Flipster, which is for magazines. Fold 3 is Ancestry, more Gale databases, which are those research databases. Another genealogy database, that's a big topic in our community. Hoopla is really big for streaming services. Keep going through these. I'm looking for some that would be like very distinct, where patrons are providing input and storing it in there. So Overdrive is one where we purchase titles for that collection. So that one's a little bit more robust in the way the library integrates with it, because the library is ordering titles. Quiphu is the service that is used for sort of issuing e-cards and that's as well as like the e-renewals. And then we've got some more digital resources. And let's see. I'm trying to think anything that kind of jumps out here. Yeah, I think that's the bottom of the sort of digital resource list. Let me go back up here. Shrink this back up. Okay, next is customer service tools, for kind of lack of a better category for this. If you think of better titles, we are very open to your input. But this one includes like MailChimp. That's for our newsletter that you get every month, is powered by a service called MailChimp. SurveyMonkey obviously is for, patrons providing input on programs and services. Zendesk was sort of an interesting one to explore. So that's the customer service sort of management tool behind the scenes for help desk tickets. So when individuals want to contact the library through our website, all the contacts there go to Zendesk, which is then sent to different staff depending on the category. But what's nice about it, it's a ticketing software, so it allows us to kind of see that there's been a response. It issues reminders if there's not a response. We have certain template replies if there's frequently asked questions like, are you taking book donations? We get some frequently asked questions. We're able to send those responses. And then we are using the city's retention schedule that would be the same for emails, which is only 2 months. So not retaining that for privacy purposes very long. So that was an interesting one to look at. And then for facility software, so this one is, this was a question that came out of the last commission meeting that was really good, was about the privacy levels for that sensor software that we use for gate counting at our front door. We did dive into the different privacy levels, and there's basically 2 things that could be used. One is either the highest level, which is privacy level 2, which it just shows sort of a shadow of an image, or it could be set to level 0 if we were doing testing, and we talked about having that done outside library hours. So we did add in that language as well. And that one, again, is not a video recording software, so there's really no retention on it. I think some people would like us to have a video recording software. We get a lot of questions, do you have video recording? Maybe, because, we've had some things where folks will lose something or misplace it over time. It's not super common, but we don't have a video recording software if asked. And then the next one is sort of the internet and mobile device section. So Google Analytics, that is a city tool that's used to analyze website traffic. Google Chromebooks, we got all this information from our city IT department, and the T-Mobile hotspots. So this was information that was in the original privacy policy, but because the idea being is we may use a different analytics tool or we may do a different hotspot company, we wanted to have that flexibility to change it. Our volunteer program, that was sort of an interesting one too for retention. I think doing this privacy policy prompted us to really look at our practices closely. So with Better Impact, just how long we're keeping those records. We're doing the 2-year retention similar to other city records in the retention schedule. And it's we did want to kind of just call out that this information is only accessible to city staff and wouldn't be released because we want to also protect our volunteers and their data as well. And lastly is this the wild world of social media platforms. So these are probably the most complex with the least options for privacy protection, but I do think, just having those links and having a little bit of information and, really just, for our patrons to take, control of that and research more about how those different companies use their data, I think is important. So that's the website. And any feedback on all the different vendor information?
You had that one section that you called what was it called?
Oh yeah,
Something?
I can go back to that customer.
I have a
customer service tools.
Yeah, I kind of have a thought on that as far
Yes.
as naming.
Yeah.
First of all, you very rarely refer to people as customers inside the library. It's usually patron. And I was thinking maybe interaction or communication, because both of those things
communication.
are the patrons are communicating with you or you're communicating with the patron.
So like patron
it's-
communication tools.
Yeah, I think that might
Thank
make
you.
sense.
I just have a question regarding the volunteer program. As a representative of the Friends of the
Yes.
Library, are we not covered under the library or independent from the library?
So the Friends of the Library does have their own volunteer program, similar to our Pause to Read Valley Humane Society, partnership. That organization has their own volunteers as well. So in that instance, is the question around the records in Better Impact. I would need to get, more clarity on that. I think, I don't know if that's as much a question for this policy as, I think it's an important question though, and I need to probably get some information on that. I don't know if I believe the Friends are measured a different way by the organization, so I don't want to speak for them, but maybe we can talk about it at the Friends meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's a good question of who's included, and I would say there are Friends that have volunteered for the library in other capacities, so they would be in better impact if they had done that.
And we also have member lists, with names of the members, their home address, email address.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I'm not familiar with those lists, but I will definitely talk with the Friends president and find out a little bit more. I appreciate that.
Good.
Privacy policies are actually wonderful because it prompts you, it becomes like an audit in a sense, where you really are looking at your practices more closely. So thank you. Any other input, feedback, ideas on the webpage? Great. I'm going to go back to the privacy policy. So the areas that we did not adjust or as much, except for the organization and the look and doing table of contents, had to do with the city IT section. So that does include the library website. So we did not make changes to that. We may have reorganized the data a bit. Public computers and internet access, I believe that stayed the same. Just reorganized with sort of more headings and, to give a little bit more clarity. And then the take-home laptops and mobile hotspots. We did change the name from Chromebooks to laptops, just because, there may be a point when we don't have Chromebooks. We use a different brand of laptops, so we wanted to maintain that flexibility. And then the last section, I believe, also. Okay, so that's sort of the city IT and the library technology section. Were there any thoughts on that area? Anything missing? Anything confusing? No? Okay. And then lastly, I think this is the closing section where it just talks a little bit about, it does touch on those emerging technologies, but just really summarizing a commitment by the library to review and update the privacy policy as new services and resources are introduced or modified, regularly updating the policy and changes and to align with library services and data practices, and then linking to the page there. And then, sorry, I'm reading kind of far, so my eyesight's, this is like an eye test. And oh yeah, that I didn't realize it was up there. Thank you. And then maintaining a comprehensive publicly accessible list of the vendor privacy practices on the website, as we looked at tonight, and then providing staff with that ongoing training to assist with privacy related questions regarding library services and digital resources. So I think with the new policy, this is also a tool in addition for the community, but also for staff. So we're going to provide trainings when the policy is approved, and then that'll be just a kickstart to also encouraging our community to stay connected. I know we had talked about, I still have the note, I just have not determined how we will incorporate some sort of public, I know there's an interest, how do we launch this with the community? Because I think as librarians, we do feel like this is really cool that the library, the public libraries in general protect privacy so much. So, I would just open it up for commission again on ideas on how to do that in sort of a fun, engaging way, rather than having it be, privacy policies I think are neat, but how do you make them kind of interesting and, engage with the community on them? So if you have ideas around that, would be open. We do invite in the end of this document for members to contact library administration with, questions or concerns about their privacy rights. That's a very important piece. And then the glossary of terms at the end. I don't think we need to go through that, but if anyone has any changes or ideas. So any thoughts on on engaging the community to our commission's question last time or the end of the document?
No, it's much better organized than it was before. It's much easier to step through it.
Well, we can thank you for the suggestions. Very, very helpful.
Can I make a tiny small thing about the glossary?
Oh, absolutely.
It is just inconsistent when it does, like, ADA doesn't have, like, American Disabilities Act.
Oh.
parentheses. And it also switches back and forth from being like, so we just went through this at my job, but
Great. No, this is very helpful.
it switches back and forth whether it's doing in the parentheses the like abbreviation or like it. There should just be one. Like you do the abbreviation, then you explain it, or you explain it and then do the abbreviation. But it switches back and forth.
Yes, thank you. So consistency in the glossary.
Yeah.
We'll look at that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
tiny thing.
No, it matters because actually the goal of the glossary was also a suggestion from our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Belonging Committee that said that, these terms are not, they're not something that everyone is familiar with. They're highly technical in some cases. So if we're not explaining it, I can see where that's a huge gap. Thank you very much.
I also think in relation to your question about how to engage with the public about the privacy, I think to me, I don't find privacy statements that exciting, but I do find them especially like the amount of privacy protection that is in this compared to the social media, like the other ones that you can click on is just so it's so clear that difference exists and that the library is protecting it. And I wonder if there's a way, I don't know if this sounds interesting to other people, but this is only because I saw on the events coming forward, there's that stock market game. I think it's with high school students, so I'm jealous.
It is. It's really, really fun.
I would like an adult version of that.
Noted.
But something where it is like a way to understand that you are not private online. You have so little of privacy online.
So more from an awareness perspective.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a little bit, consumer protections, even awareness of like scams and, phishing and, things like that.
Yeah.
That's great. So maybe broadening it a bit. So.
Yeah, and also then, applauding, like, this is what it should be. You should have protection for your data.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not the reality we live in most places or most websites.
Yeah. Thank you. I like that idea. Anything else?
So it seems that we'll need one more time through? Or-
So at this stage, it's really up to commission. What we would typically do is I've been taking notes. Lily, you probably have some notes, is summarizing the recommendations by the commission the website information we will, adjust on our own, but that's not something that's, the action item. So there could be a recommendation by commission to approve the policy with the following changes, and then that would be in the minutes. And we did that, if you look in the past with our other policies, they were recommended for approval with the following adjustments. We did it with a fee schedule update as well. So it's very common practice. Or we could bring another draft back.
This one's big enough, it probably makes sense to actually see the final and vote on the final.
That would be, that is definitely something you can make a motion on.
We have to motion for that?
Can I ask clarification from our recording secretary? Would the recommendation be, because the recommendation, there's a staff recommendation, would they just make a new recommendation with their own wording? And then that would be seconded and approved?
explain that or say that one more
Sure.
time?
So in the report itself, if you look, the title, or the recommendation, so in item 5, if you look down to the recommendation portion, that is the staff recommendation to review and recommend City Council adopt a resolution approving the library privacy policy. So what I was asking for clarity on is that something that, so commission could do an alternate recommendation where they, adjust the wording of that recommendation.
Were you, based on item 5, were you hoping then that what you're thinking was that this is the version that we would see, you would modify it and then move it up to City Council?
Yes, that is past practice, but commission can provide an alternate recommendation as well.
Do we have a lot of changes?
Let me summarize. So the first one I had was regarding the library app, although I do feel like where we landed was we would be changing it on the website. The second recommendation was around literacy, and that would be to provide, hold on one moment, literacy was to provide information on to indicate whether or not in the policy that literacy learners sign an acknowledgement. However, if they don't, I don't know what the action is. We may not be able to require that under the state program.
Yeah, I don't think that's part of the policy.
The third one is, it was actually on the website to rename the category to patron communication tools, done. Next was actually was just an action item for me to follow up with the Friends about their inclusion and better impact. To look at the glossary for consistency, for looking at acronyms, and then privacy training. I don't think we were going to call that out in the policy. And let me just go through my notes one more time in the whole document. That is actually all I had. Lily,
Yeah, those
did you?
Those are pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really pretty minimal. I would say that the inclusion of the app probably belongs on page 9.
Oh, yes, it's added. I wrote
That's
it on
the one
page 9.
place.
Okay. So inclusion of the app on page 9.
On page
yes.
9. I think those are really pretty minimal. I don't know that we need to see it again.
Then I would motion to recommend the privacy policy to be sent to the City Council with all of the adjustments that were just noted.
And I think we do need to line item the adjustments in the recommendation.
Should we- want me to say them real quick?
So, and just as a reminder, so it's with the following adjustments to add information on the library app on page 9. You can use your own words, and then to update the glossary for consistency for our acronyms, and word order. I think is that kind of the essence of it. Okay.
Do I need to repeat that?
Yes. So with the following 2 adjustments, which would be to add information on the library app on page 9, and to update the glossary for consistency with acronyms and wording.
I motion to recommend the library privacy policy to the City Council with the following adjustments of 1, including the information about the library app on page 9 of the privacy policy, and then also updating the glossary of terms to be consistent regarding the wording and the order of the words.
I'll second that.
All right. Commissioner Chen,
I
Commissioner Dillon,
Aye.
Emerson,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Stroud,
Aye.
and Chair Sabatini.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Library Commission. Amazing work. This has been one of the most enjoyable privacy policies. It's our first privacy policy projects I've worked on, and I really credit it to the commission and your involvement every step of the way. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, review library programs held in April and May. and discuss outreach opportunities.
Well, thank you. This is sort of the standing item where we get a chance to look at our upcoming programs and then also to see if there is any commission interest in attending the activities and providing tabling. The biggest one in April, I can just say right off the top of my head, is Earth Day. So Earth Day is hosted at the Pleasanton Library. It has been for the last several years. We're very excited. We're hoping for a rain-free day, but we do have a backup plan if the event that it does rain, it will be moved inside. We've got a wonderful performer coming that's come before called Happy Birds, and Happy Birds is just, if you want to have just a bit of sunshine in your day, come see Happy Birds. And they're the presenters who come, who are the caretakers and trainers of the birds, are just very library friendly. They perform all over the Bay Area in different libraries, but really the theme of Earth Day is around sustainability, about care of our planet. And with that program, we have things like the shredding event, but we also have different representatives from community organizations. Each booth this year will have a focus that's around sustainability. So we've really tried to focus the event a little bit more. I'm not sure if we have the Friends joining us this year, but as you know, the Friends and their book sale efforts are real proponents of sustainability and reusing our resources. And then I'm probably missing a key portion of the event. I think we do have a performer and an entertainer. So if you're interested at all, Earth Day would be a great place to do some tabling and some outreach, and we can help you set that up. I will be at the event that day. So if you're interested, reach out to me and let me know. If you aren't going to know until right before the event, you still want to be there, that's great. Just make sure and let me know, and we'll have a table there for our commission with, our city tablecloth on it. You can just wear your badges, promote library services. We can have some laptops out there and a little bit of information for you. So I think if you come, it'll be a really enjoyable event.
Okay, we'll let you know.
Great, thank you. Any other events in April jump out, or any questions?
I would just like to add something.
Yes.
Kind of our fringe group, the Friends of the Pleasanton Library, are having their annual membership meeting on Sunday, April 27th at the library from 2 to 4. You're cordially invited. And I put a little flyer at each of your spots to help you remember.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy. If you also think of it and want to send me the flyer, I can send it to Commission if you want to then forward it to anyone.
Do that.
And just to clarify, that event is also an opportunity for new members to join, is that
Correct.
right?
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh. We'll be giving a presentation, giving an overview of all the wonderful things that the
Great.
Friends do
That's
for the
wonderful.
community and for the library, of course.
Yes, thank you so much to the Friends. Do we have an update on the book sales?
Oh, we're not there yet, though.
Oh, sorry. You can obviously see how excited I am about the Friends. Yes.
Did you want to cover May as well?
Yes, let's cover May. Thank you. So for May, I think sort of our signature event will be on May 17th. That's for AAPI Heritage Month. That is hosted at the Firehouse Art Center on the outdoor patio. Just due to the volume and size of that event, it's just a little bit better space for us because you can also be outdoors and indoors. Usually there is a performer at the event that draws crowds. We also usually have a story time featured, arts and activities. We do have often the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Center will provide tabling at the event with an activity. But if you have any interest in joining, I think that's one where we usually have an activity and you can be a part of it. It's really fun. So I'd highly recommend that one as well. We have library staff and civic arts staff, so it is kind of a joint effort on that program. And then the library is closed for both, just to highlight, obviously for Memorial Day as a city holiday. And every year, for those that are new to the commission, the library does close on, usually it's the last day right before the summer reading kickoff. So that'll be closed on Friday the 30th. And then the drum roll next is that we're going to have we have a new member of our family joining us on the 31st for summer reading kickoff. That is Zippy, our outreach vehicle. So we have not launched the marketing yet on that. We're still getting Zippy in tip-top shape. Our goal is to have a preview for commissions. So we will be sharing that with all our commissions a chance earlier in the day for of that event. So it'd be a great time for you to come see Zippy and walk through and take your picture and that sort of thing. So that's that event is our largest event of the year. It's a really good opportunity to reach a lot of people. So we are engaging in staff training throughout the months of April and May. We have 3 days of driver training for our drivers. So, it's not a light lift to prepare, but we want everyone to be safe and to have a chance to learn how to navigate a 29-foot 14,000-pound vehicle with ease, particularly backing up. I'm not sure if it will. I think it'll fit down that little driveway in the back, but they did say that they would run some training. I know.
Are they required to have a different license class?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, it is a Class C license still, and that was one of the reasons for choosing the size of this vehicle was it could be driven by staff without a special license. What we did learn though, when we got the vehicle was because of its weight and its just the maneuverability that it's highly advised that staff would receive training because the weight puts it into a commercial class and with CHP requirements we want to make sure that our staff is certified, so it's a certification training that they're going to be running through. So we're really excited. We're very happy we have staff eager to drive. I won't be one of those, but I will be an excited passenger. So,
and what day is the launch? Did you say?
So it's always on Saturday of every year. So it's basically the weekend after school ends. So it's Saturday, May 31st, and we have performances that day at 11 and 2 p.m. for the kickoff. But the idea is we would do something a little earlier, like 9 or so. I don't have the exact dates. I'll send those out I have the dates. I don't have the times yet. So.
That's exciting.
Yes, thank you.
Been waiting for that for a while.
Absolutely, we're so excited.
Just a little asterisk. The Friends of the Pleasanton Library donated $10,000 to Zippy.
Yeah, we are very grateful to the Friends. They are purchasing books for the vehicle for Zippy. They have their own special labels, and we're going to have some book plates from the Friends. And then we would like to also just really acknowledge and thank the State Library of California through a very generous matching grant that provided half of the cost, 50% of the cost for the vehicle. So we're very fortunate.
Okay. Number 7, brief reports on any meetings, conferences, seminars, commission members might have attended. I just had a question. Did you want to mention this?
Yes, thank you. We meant to roll this out at the last meeting. It's not agendized, but we do have our One Pleasanton strategic plan. So this is, our One Pleasanton Library and Recreation strategic plan. So this is a result of the meetings that we had with commissions in the latter part of last year. And so each commission provided input. Each of our library and recreation commissions provided input for the strategic plan. It has a new set of goals for it's 2025 through 2030. We did do sort of more like 6 years because the numbers sounded better than going from 2025 to 2029. It does give us an opportunity to really focus on the goals and align those goals with our city plan as well. So you'll see, I don't have a copy right in front of me, or I would refer to it. I don't have it quite memorized, but it has 3 major goal areas. Do you have an extra one? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not agendized, so I think we wouldn't entertain questions or discuss it. But if we, I do think there will be a point for us to bring this back once the goals are underway, and talk with the commission a little further. I did want to just briefly highlight our vision, which is to inspire a vibrant community where everyone belongs, and then the mission is to build community through exceptional services and inclusive programming. Discover, connect, belong. So thank you so much for your input. The values you can see, service, integrity, inclusion, innovation, and collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, number 8. Friends of
I'm
the
so
Library
sorry, Commissioner Murphy. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
I won't disappoint. As you know, we had our spring book sale from March 20th to the 23rd, was it 23rd or 24th? I'm happy to report that we earned $15,500.
Wow.
Wow.
And thank you so much to the commissioners that volunteered for our event. I hope you had a good experience. I always enjoy volunteering for the book sale myself, so thank you so much for volunteering. Our next book sale will be in the fall, September 11th to the 14th, so keep your calendar clear. Same days and times, I assume, is the last one. If you go to the library in the month of April, when you enter the library, look to the right at the display case, because I think this is the first time the Friends of the Library have had the display case. So we had a lot of fun putting that together, and I think you'll enjoy looking at that. And then again, we do have our annual member meeting and membership drive on Sunday, April 27th, 2 o'clock, probably an hour and a half. 2 hours is too much, but an hour and a half. And that's going to be at the library in the large meeting room. And so you'll meet our board members. If you are a member of the Friends, you'll be able to vote for our board. So we're doing that then. And you'll hear about the mission of the Friends. We'll have a little PowerPoint presentation. And I don't know if we're having any free food. Usually that brings people in. So yeah, please come.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Sharon. That display case is great.
Try to make it applicable to all ages.
Yes. And it is National Volunteer Appreciation Month,
Oh,
so
yes.
we greatly appreciate our Friends of the Library.
I think pretty soon, isn't it Donate a Book Day too? They have all sorts of
Oh.
events.
Yeah. National Library Week is also in April, but I don't know about Donate a Book Week. I like that.
Saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 items on the future agenda items. Collection development plan, we hope to have next time, right?
Yes, we anticipate bringing that in June.
And as you said, the outreach vehicle, will there be a presentation for that as well?
We would like to provide one, yes.
Summer reading program is coming, and a commission work plan. Are we waiting for city council? and the
Yes, so
budget?
that will come after the budget, but I did want to have a placeholder on there for it.
And does anyone have any other items they'd like to add to the agenda?
The commission work plan, so in the booklet, one of the goals is the funding our future. Is that going to be part of that? Is that an appropriate time to be having a conversation and ask questions about that?
Yes, I can definitely, you can make a motion or I can look at incorporating that in. And is your question around the goal of funding our future, or is it around?
It just, I think it's a worthwhile topic. I mean, we did at one time, I think, at some point last year, talk about the idea of, other funding ways to fund things, programs,
I
things
see.
that we can do, that we could look for to help the library continue to do some things that are just going to have to be cut because of the budget. So I think we've kind of vaguely talked around that, but there's going to be a point where you're going to know what's not going to be able to happen. And we talked a little bit about maybe a grant for example, the getting the Teen Poet Laureate, the funding for that or something like that. But we talked about that at some point, and it would make sense, I think, at some point to revisit that as a topic.
So I'm just looking back. We did have a 6-month, I think, commission work plan. It was sort of a short-term work plan, and part of in that work plan was to receive information on the city's adopted budget. So, and I think that one of the items that came forward in that presentation was around funding and around grants and alternate funding sources. So I think you're right. It would be an appropriate time to incorporate that into the work plan discussion.
Into that conversation. Yeah, I think that's probably sensible. I mean, I think it's great what the Friends of the Library do, but I think there are other ways and places and things we could
And
think
just,
about.
I mean, to clarify, staff does look at grants and other funding sources. So while it's not the commission's purview, I do think providing for staff to provide information on what is being explored or what has been explored, like what grants we do receive, I think is of value, and we can incorporate that into that presentation.
Yeah, I think we don't know that. I don't think there's ever a time when we're told, we get these grants for these things. I don't think we ever really go over that. So it would be good to know.
We
that.
can include grants. Yes, thank you so much.
Any other items? Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.